Well, the election is over, finally. And what does that portend for your portfolio? Hi, I'm John McNeil, and this is the Invest Strong Network. Welcome. So it's pretty apparent Joseph Biden and Kamala Harris will be the next president and vice president of the United States, respectively. And this is a seismic shift in policy, right? Economic policy, foreign policy, health policy, and all of these things will have an impact on all of our lives and portfolios and things like that. So for many years, I've been a political observer and a bit of a historian, and I've watched Mr. Biden very, very carefully um, since the time his time in the Senate as head of the Foreign Relations Committee, and also, of course, as vice president for Barack Obama. So, what can we expect out of a Biden and Harris presidency? Well, this is what I see. As it relates to healthcare, I see Mr. Biden trying to refine the Obamacare law of 2010 and basically trying to expand, get the Republican governors and legislatures in a number of states to expand Medicare coverage and Medicaid coverage rather to cover more persons who have lost their work and thus lost their healthcare benefits due to the CV-19 pandemic. And I also see the Biden administration allowing Medicare and Medicaid programs to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs. That will, by necessity, drive down the cost of prescription drugs, certainly for those programs and perhaps overall. And that would be a blessing. I do not see this Medicare for all thing that Bernie Sanders and many of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party want. Mr. Biden has never been on board for that. And with a divided Congress, or what certainly looks like to be a divided Congress, I just don't see it. Now, as it relates to tax policy, well, obviously we have a deficit and a debt that is exploding, and it would be reasonable and realistic to have some kind of tax increases to offset these huge deficits. Now, I do see the Biden administration pushing for modest tax increases. Nothing major, though. And the tax increases will be on the upper end, perhaps even the very highest end of the income scale. And that's about as much as they'll be able to push through a divided Congress, right? And so I think the idea or the potential for large tax increases, certainly in the next 2 years, I really believe that's off the table. Now, as it relates to the CV-19 pandemic, I see the Biden administration pushing very, very hard for mandatory mask orders on a nationwide basis, and I think that's where we've come to, and that just makes sense. I just see them doing that, right? And I also see um, targeted shutdowns in hotspot areas. Both of these things are items that the Trump administration was very, very reluctant to encourage. Now, I all I think what might benefit all of us and myself especially is I'll be refreshed by just a more honest, frank, and clear approach, more competent approach to the CV-19 pandemic. Right? I mean, it has been incredibly frustrating over the last 8 months to have the doctors and the scientists say one thing, and then the political leadership come out right after them and say something totally different. And I really believe that those days are over, thank goodness. Right? Now, as it relates to trade policy, now there's something about Mr. Biden. Mr. Biden is and always has been an internationalist. He is an institutional guy. He believes in supporting multilateral organizations. He believes in trade pacts. He believes in all of these things that basically allow the system of economic trade to go forward, right? So I see a return of TPP, which he was involved with as vice president for Obama. I also see a loosening of trade restrictions with China and actually with some other countries also. But I also see a more aggressive approach to rapprochement with our allies that have been terribly alienated by the by the Trump administration over the last 4 years, right? And so, and actually with that, I think that he'll have an outreached hand in the Republican, from Republicans in the Congress, because freer trade has always been a trademark of them. Now they digressed dramatically during the Trump years, but I think that this would be a return to the mean for Republicans in Congress, and that's right up Mr. Biden's alley, right? All right. Now, as it relates to other economic policies, overall, writ large, uh, Biden he is a man of modesty, right? Regulations, I believe that he will support and strengthen the Obama era regulations, certainly on financial markets and financial institutions. Let's hope he does that, right? Because that's been the one area that has basically been able to keep the economy buoyant, the financial system buoyant. The fact that there has not been a financial collapse as there was in 2008, 2009. I think he wants to strengthen regulations in that area. But in other areas, I see a general relaxation of federal, right? Federal regulatory structure. And again, that's something that I think he'll have an open hand, outstretched hand with Republicans in Congress, right? And basically, I see a Biden administration writ large as a more competent, a more thoughtful administration as it relates to all kinds of economic policy and foreign policy and things of that nature, right? I mean, Mr. Biden or nor Ms. Harris, these people are not bomb throwing liberals or progressive Che Guevara progressives or anything like this. And even if they were, they have Republicans in Congress that would work hard to keep them in check. But the fact that they are not encourages me that there will be quite a bit of progress made in a variety of areas that really need progress going forward. Now, if there is one area that definitely concerns me about a Biden administration, it is the fact that the federal deficit and the debt has and will continue to expand. Now, in previous videos, I have mentioned about the nature of the debt and how it will affect interest rates and taxing policies going forward. That is certainly still relevant. Now, unfortunately for Mr. Biden, a lot of this stuff is already baked in the cake. I mean, the Trump people are just leaving him a catastrophe on the fiscal level, right? So he will have to, there'll be so many financial constraints on the Biden Harris administration because of the already massive deficit and debt, right? So, but still, there could be an infrastructure bill that he forces through. There could be some other things that he and Democrats in Congress and Republicans in Congress are able to get together on and make work. But it is going to be small ball. I'm sorry. I mean, with the nature of the debt and the deficit, there's just not enough resources to do massive reforms or launch massive new programs. It's just not there. Now, there is one other thing that does give me some solace is I think that any stimulus coming out in these first few months of the Biden administration will pump revenue into the state and local governments. Now, that's something that Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration have been really dragging their feet on, right? But I believe that with a narrower number of Republicans in the Congress and with the Democratic president, I see in the honeymoon period something get going through that would pump revenue into the state and local governments to make up for the losses for the CV-19 pandemic. And that actually bodes very, very well for government employment and for municipal bonds, right? So that'll be, a good thing going forward. Okay, so those are my thoughts. And I hope that you've been able to maybe, take some nuggets of wisdom out of it. If you have, please smash the like button. Right, I appreciate that. It raises the profile of the vids, and that's always a good thing. Comment, please leave a comment. If I've gone off track, let me know. I need to know. And of course, subscribe. You can subscribe under any administration. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much, and good blessings.